March 16th, 12:45 a.m. Sunday morning, 2003, in the little town of Laverkin, Utah. A man was getting into bed after his full work week, bone tired. He paused before getting into bed and he said, "I love you, honey." She replied, "I love you too." Those were the last words they would ever speak to each other. Church was at 9 a.m., 9 to 12, 3 hours long. That would mean he would have to get up by 7 in the morning to make church on time. She woke him at 7. He opened his eyes and it was so dark in the room because the day outside had not really dawned. It was cold, dark, dreary, drizzly, and he was still exhausted. He said, "Honey, I can't make church yet. I need more sleep." He went back to sleep. She got herself ready and her little boy, their little boy, and went to church. He woke up a couple of times, opening his eyes, and it was still dark. It was a dark winter day. A day that doesn't make you want to get up and get going. And he had been exhausted. About noon, a little bit after, he woke up. It was still dark, but he was rested. So he got up, put on his robe, went downstairs and made coffee. He looked out the kitchen window. Across empty fields, he could see the church parking lot. Most of the people were gone or leaving. He thought to himself, well, she'll be home soon. He was eager to see her. This was their one day off. This was the day he enjoyed the most, being with her and the family. Although the older kids from her previous marriage were with their mother on spring break, spring somewhere else, but not here. The coffee brewed, poured his first cup. He looked in the church parking lot again, couldn't see her, couldn't see her car. So he went to his office, sat down, drank. When he went for a second cup of coffee, he looked again into the church parking lot, which was almost bare at this time. And he saw her car, nose to tail, next to a sheriff's deputy four-wheel drive vehicle, driven by a deputy named Judy Randall. The deputy was a family friend. We spent a lot of time together, helped her with her campaign running for sheriff. So he thought, well, good, she'll be home soon. He was eager to see her. Second cup of coffee, back in his office, he was playing some games on the computer when there was a pounding at the front door. Not a knock, but a pounding. He went to the door, opened it. There were two local policemen. He knew them both, had worked with them. He said, "Come on in, guys, you're getting wet." They reluctantly, shyly walked into the room. He said, "You want some coffee? It's cold." They said, "No." They started talking about a fight. And there was a trailer park behind the man's house, and that there were often fights over there. Drunk fights, drug fights, domestic fights, fights of neighbors. There's always something going on. So he said to him, "I've been asleep. I haven't heard anything. I was dead to the world, so I don't know who was fighting." And they kept talking, but they weren't really saying much. He wasn't understanding. Finally, after a couple of minutes, they said, "You fighting with your wife?" He said, no, I'm not fighting with my wife. She's at church and I've been asleep. Well, they left in a few more minutes and he was puzzled. Didn't understand what they were even talking about. But his wife would be home soon, and maybe she knew, because she was talking to the deputy. Maybe she knew what was going on. Some time passed. He kept looking in the church parking lot, but she was gone now, so it wasn't the sheriff's deputy. Then there was another knock at the front door. This time it was Judy Randall, the deputy sheriff, and another female officer from the local city. Both were friends. So he invited them in. Come on in. That's when the story started unfolding. That his wife was claiming abuse, claiming some crazy stuff that wasn't even making sense to him. He must have talked to him for 10 or 15 minutes and kept saying, no, I don't know what you're talking about. Well, they asked him to walk outside and talk and walk around a little bit, so he did. And what they were doing was giving his wife time to go into the house, pack some clothes, bags, whatever, and skip out. And that's what they did. Finally, the accusations were starting to dawn on him what the heck was going on. And he looked at the sheriff's deputy and he said, everything that I know to be true has just been shattered. They talked a few more minutes and he said, I had never felt so loved in my life as I did with this woman. What's going on? Well, they left. The man put in a call to the church bishop, and he wouldn't answer the phone. They wouldn't return the calls. And this went on for 3 days. Finally, the bishop called him to come in and talk to him. He went in and talked to the bishop. And the first thing the bishop said was, are you having an affair? The guy says, heck no. No affair. Why? That's what his wife was claiming, that he was having an affair. He wasn't. I mean, not even close. Never wanted to. Never thought about it. And then he started talking about the abuse. And he listened to the bishop, and then he said to the bishop, if any of that were true, then you should have sent men over to my house to get me some help. That's what you should have done, if it were true. But none of it's true. Every single thing is false. Well, anyway, he left the bishop's office, went back home. That was 3 days after it had started. 2 days later, he receives a restraining order. Now he's got something that he can read and try to make sense of. But this restraining order was even worse. It accused him of so many things, dozens of things, crazy things. Things that he looked at, he goes, this doesn't even make sense. This is almost like babbling. One of the accusations was that he was so controlling that he wouldn't even let her use the phone. She couldn't call anybody, talk to anybody. And they had 4 different telephone numbers with, I don't know, maybe 7 or 9 different phones. They each had cell phones. They had business phones, house phones, cordless phones. This stuff didn't make sense to him at all. I love you, MacGyver. Hope you're well. I miss you.